Okay, as promised, we're going to end the hour with a fun discussion about amusement parks, and Pete Trabucco is with us. Pete is the author of a book. There's the cover. We have the paperback version here. America's Top Roller Coasters and Amusement Parks, a guide for those who ride them and tips for those who fear them. Pete, nice to have you here. Thanks very much for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate coming in.
So what a fun idea for a book. How'd you come up with it?
Well, actually, it came up with the idea because I was actually petrified of roller coasters. Something happened to me way back when I was 6 years old, a little place called Coney Island. You might have heard of it. And what happened was I went on a ride. Didn't like it very much. And
Which one?
Actually, I don't know. I was only 6 years old at the time, but it wasn't a big one. It was just a little one, but it scared me. And I decided I was not going to do roller coasters for many, many years. But my daughter was born in 1996. At that point, I decided, well, I want to be able to share things with her. I want to be able to overcome this fear. And even though I was a pilot, I'm a pilot, and I've done aerobatics, and I, basically can do all that, I still had the fear, the childhood fear. So I started in '96, and several years later, I overcame the fear, enjoyed it with my family, and I'm in the aviation industry. I work for a company called CRS Jet Spares. I travel all over the country,
right.
And while I do that, you sit in a hotel room between conferences. Well, why not go to the amusement parks and do stuff along those lines? So I started getting into that, and one day I was with a bunch of people, and they said, "Why don't you write a book about it? You know so much about it." So that's what happened. That's the title.
All right. Well, then let's get right to it then, because as someone who has traveled across the country, you've obviously been able to get to a lot of these places. Let's look at the list of the top 10 amusement parks around the United States, and at the very top of the list are the two Disney amusement parks.
Yes.
The one in Florida and the one in California.
Well, actually, when I gave the order, basically, and I try to do that in the book, I don't want to give the order of 1 through 10 as being 1 best and 10 being worst, because obviously all the amusement parks are great, but we have to start somewhere, and where better to start than, of course, Disney World. You can't beat it. You've got 4 parks there, 18 hotels that are under the Disney name, as well as dozens of rides, and it's an amazing place to be. It's an amazing place to go to. And the thing about Disney World, both Disney World and Disneyland, we'll get into that later, is that they're family friendly. You've got, you've got some pretty good rides, like Rock and Roller Coaster, which is a pretty decent ride for coaster enthusiasts. But you also have the kiddie rides. You've got Disney World, obviously. You've got Magic Kingdom for the kids. So there's something for everyone at Disney, and that's one of the reasons why they bring in 15 to 20 million people a year for those 4 parks.
And they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Okay, well, since you don't go in order, then I won't. I'll jump around as well and sort of lump together numbers 6, 8, and 9, which are all Six Flags amusement parks. So this is a chain, and I happen to have grown up in South Jersey, going to number 8, Great Adventure, which is exit 7A off of the New Jersey Turnpike. I remember it well. Lots of good times there as a kid. But the Six Flags folks, because they've got them all over the place, I guess they've come up with a formula, and it works.
It does. And Six Flags Great Adventure opens in April. I wanted to mention that as well. That's my home park as well. Yes, Six Flags. Obviously, they've got 12 amusement parks all over the country and 5 water parks. Depends on which ones you like. The best ones, obviously, are Six Flags Great Adventure, Six Flags Over Texas is another excellent one. And, the thing about Six Flags is that, again, they try to theme it like a Disney. The thing you'll find differently there than you will from a Disney World is that you're going to find some pretty intense rides. People go to those parks because they want to ride, for example, Kinder Ka, which is the tallest and fastest.
That's a great adventure, right?
That's a great adventure. It's the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the country. Just imagine going from 0 to 128 miles an hour in 3 seconds. Straight up 440 feet, straight down 440 feet. Never lose any speed along the way. It is an intense ride. It's the fastest in the United States right now. I think there's one faster now, just created in Dubai, I think. But other than that, these are why you go to these parks. They have got the amusements, but at the same time, this is why you go to these parks, for the rides. And of course, entertainment, attractions, shows. There's something for everyone.
That's what you made out in high school, right? On that ride, they were like, the girl would like grab Rick, you know, and I'm so scared.
Going a 0 to 128 in 60 seconds. That's
a metaphor.
Speed. That's what it is, exactly. But you know, I've noticed something because I don't get to amusement parks as often as I did when I was a kid. I think that there's something biologically that happens to your body that really, as you get a little bit older, see, I'm interested in the fact that you started off afraid of these things, and as you have gotten older and had your own kids, you've learned to love them. My body, my stomach can't take it the way that I used to when I was 16, 17, 18 years old.
When you were 16 and 17 years old, you were on wood coasters, and they were rickety, and they shook around, and they were the old steel type coasters with the big horse collars. And yes, they were pretty rough. Your head got banged up a lot. You're kind of like Rocky Balboa after like 15 rounds. Nowadays, the rides, the manufacturers have put together smooth rides. These rides are so smooth, you come off that ride and you're exhilarated. Yes, you do feel the G-forces, the negative G-forces, and the positive G-forces, depending on what you're doing. But at the same time, you come off that ride, it's extremely smooth. And how I rated coasters in amusement parks was really re-rideability. If you want to go back on that ride because you love it, it's a fantastic ride, and you can't wait to get back on that queue line to go on it again. That's a good ride. Some rides I've been on, like yourself, they're rough. You get off them. My wife's a chiropractor, and a lot of times I've had to use her services.
She should stand outside of the line and just hand out her business cards. All right, let's take a look at some of your picks for the top roller coasters. We'll start with the steel ones, and then we'll go to the wooden ones as well. I mean, I remember the Super Duper Looper at Great Adventure, and that was one that I just kept going. Got off it and then got right back on the line. Yeah. But I guess these are some of the newer ones. Cedar Point, is that in Ohio, Cedar Point?
That's in Ohio, Sandusky, Ohio. It's on a peninsula.
I've been to that amusement park. That's a fun place to go. So they have the Millennium Force, and then Six Flags New England, Magic Mountain, Six Flags. So these are some of the best. What makes these the best?
Well, again, re-rideability on these roller coasters. Millennium Force, it might not be the tallest anymore at 300 feet, or the fastest at around 80 to 90 miles an hour. But what it does have, it's a long ride. It's got re-rideability. It you can ride it 10 times, and you're going to get the same thrill on the 10th ride that you did on the first ride. And that's one of the things. Plus, it's extremely smooth. So that's why that made my list. Bizarro, which is over at Six Flags in New England. Yeah. That one is not as tall, but if you like to get ejected out of your seat or feel like you're getting ejected out of your seat, and again, most of these rides they're all safe. They just want to give you the illusion of that. That's the ride to go on if you really, really like that. X2, which is in Six Flags Magic Mountain, that's just the craziest ride you ever want to be on. When I was trying to overcome my fear, I tried to see the track beforehand and just guess what's going on. X2, you can't. It's flipping around so many different ways and so many different directions. It's impossible. So that's why that made the list. Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens is another great one. That's at Williamsburg. Again, a very tall, fast coaster, very smooth. And of course, Kinder Kyle we talked about.
The wooden roller coasters, and these are more old school. Are they still building wooden roller coasters?
Yes, they are. And those wood coasters now are getting almost as smooth as those steel coasters. I mean, we've come a long way from rides. By the way, a great ride is Cyclone in Brooklyn, the Cyclone. But it's a rough ride.
Coney Island.
1927 that was created, and of course Charles Lindbergh was boasting how great it was. And it is a great ride, but it's rough. The new list that we have are rides like Thunderhead over at Dolly World and Pigeon Forge. Great smooth ride, and again, basically, you're on a wood coaster, you're moving pretty fast, but at the same time, you're not going to come up with a back or neck injury, which for me, being an older person, is important. Boulder Dash, Lake Compounce, another great ride.
Yep. That's
in Bristol, Connecticut. Fantastic ride. It actually follows the curvature of the mountain, so you don't know what's going on there. Ghost Rider, that's at Knott's Berry Farms in California. Another great ride, and you know, it's kind of like a head chopper. You know, those old rides, if you go through and there's something above you and you try to put your head down. Boulder Dash, that has plenty of head chopping business, so you see a lot of people trying to duck. El Toro.
4 or 5. I'm just going to go through the rest of the list here. El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure.
Great ride.
And the Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. You know, I'm going to go back now. I really feel like I'm ready for this again with Great Adventure opening in April, and my oldest is 6 years old, so I think she's ready for She's ready for a ride. You still have to be as high as Yosemite Sam, or I'll say you must be this tall. Who is that? Who is that guy standing out there? Is he still out there? He was like the big rooster or whatever that tells you how tall you have to be.
Yeah. No,
Foghorn Leghorn. Thank you very much.
Well, there are a lot of great rides there, and yeah, you should try it again, because I think you're going to get a better experience now. The rides are a lot smoother. I don't know how big your child is, so I'm not sure how many rides she might be able to get on, but they've got some...
We'll get her on there. I'll give her some elevated shoes so we can get her on there. America's Top Roller Coasters and Amusement Parks is the book of Pete Trabucco. Nice to meet you, Pete. Thanks very much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Fun discussion.